let's jump right into it, man. Take us back to your Wall Street days, and the moment that you did decide to leave investment banking for panel. What were some of those things that you were thinking, the biggest doubts that you faced, and how did you push through to start this journey?
Yeah, so I think just setting the context for even before banking. When I was in college, I always just cared about playing basketball. That was like my main identity. And I think probably like you one day, like you're like, wow, basketball is no longer going to be my identity.
Yeah,
What do I do now? And really, I went to Washington and Lee, and everybody from there tended to go into investment banking. There was like a strong gravitational pull from college into investment banking, and really like hooping was my identity. So I just was like, I'll just go do what everybody else is doing and see what happens. And I tried for a while to get into investment banking. It was really hard. Finally, eventually got a job at Deutsche Bank in New York, which worked out quite well on paper. So I was like, let me go up to New York, give this a try. I never in my mind was like, this is like my biggest dream or going to be my passion. I think I was like, I'm going to do this because it feels like it's what everybody else is doing, and I don't really know what else I want to do yet. So I joined there. I was actually in the industrials group. And I was working with a lot of people that, went to Princeton, Harvard, all the Ivies. It was really like the on paper cream of the crop people. So I really liked the people that I was surrounded with, at least in like my analyst class, like the bottom of the totem pole, and learned a ton while doing it. I think just being around people that are really driven in New York at that age was just a good way to launch my career. I felt like the people you surround yourself with have a huge impact on, your reality and what's normal, and your work ethic and what other people are doing. So that part I liked, but outside of that, I hated pretty much everything else about banking. Like the culture was like terrible. People were so rude to me for no reason. Like I was working really hard, crazy hours, and like there was this culture of just like you're on the bottom, so I'm gonna be rude to you. You're gonna learn the hard way. I'm gonna make your life harder than it has to be. Instead of, hey, I'm going to try to prop you up, enable you to be successful, do things as a leader that I can to help you succeed. It was like the complete opposite, maybe super old school. I don't know what you want to call it, but that was the culture there, and it wasn't for me at all. And I think in my heart of hearts, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think as a kid, if you asked me what I wanted to do, I'd say like start my own company. And people are like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, who knows?" But I think there was that desire to do that, whatever that even means. I had no idea what that would look like, or, how it would manifest itself. But that was what I wanted to do. But after banking, I wasn't ready right away to jump straight head first into starting my own company. I was like, let me get a taste and learn under some people that were successful in starting their own companies. So I left, went to a digital advertising company called Fluent. For me, I think that was one of the first like leaps of faith in my career, because in banking, part of the culture is like if you leave banking, you're never going to be rich and successful. Like the best thing you can do to be rich and successful is like work at a big investment bank in New York, and you have it made, and all you have to do is not leave. Um, and there might be some truth to it, but but it was just culturally, not for me. So I think for me, that was my first big leap, was breaking out of that like mindset jail of like, this is what I have to do. And like leaving would be failing, and being like, no, this is what I want to do. Like, and then as soon as you leave, you're like, wow, that was weird that I even felt that way. Like, what was going on? So I don't know about you if you've ever experienced stuff like that, but for me, that was, I think, the first time where I took a
well,
leap of faith and broke what I was supposed to be doing.
I'm literally doing it as we speak. Right? That's breaking out of the mental jail, so to speak. I want to piggyback off that real quick, though, not to cut you, but
Oh.
what were some of those things that you did to break out of the mental space? Because yeah, you may have left the job, and you moved into Fluent, but I'm sure there was still something mentally going on, saying, "Dang, am I gonna fail because I left banking, or am I even meant to do what this is, what I'm trying to do now?" Because the culture was so strong. I'm sure that there was like a battle that you had to like deal with in your mind.
Yeah, I think one thing that plagued me for a while, maybe still does, is like always comparing like how much did I make this year to if I would have just not done anything. Um, so I try not to think about that too much unless it's in a good way. But I think it was definitely really hard mentally, but it was one of those things that as soon as I did it, there was like not really much of like a hangover from it or anything. It was like I was gone, and like a week later, I was just like, "Whoa, that was weird." Like almost like probably like when people say they leave a cult,
Yeah.
they're like it felt so normal. And then I left, and then like only leaving then I was like that I was not happy doing that. Like that was terrible. And in it, I think while you're doing it, your body has coping mechanisms and certain things where like you convince yourself to stay happy enough because I'm not gonna, go into deep depression. I'm gonna do everything I can to avoid that. But as soon as I left, I was like, wow, like that was easy to do. Like it is almost, I don't know. I don't know about your experience, but it's like for me, it's like as soon as I did it, I was like, wow, that was chill.
Yeah, it's happened to me in the same sense at times. You know, I know I find myself having to, go back to the, almost like the self-talk that I would have as an athlete, where it's like, I'm a winner, like that doesn't matter what anyone thinks. Like it doesn't matter what, the they're saying I should be. It's like, no, 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 I'm this. I can go. I'll put it in the basketball terms. I can go get that bucket. Like I would say those things to myself over and over again to remove myself from the doubt that would creep in. And as you said, still to this day, even sometimes in these moments right now, right, where am I doing this interview right? It's like it doesn't matter if I'm doing it right. I'm doing it, and I have to constantly say this to myself over and over again. And I think that's something our listeners can take away. It's like you're not gonna feel perfect. I don't think you're never gonna feel perfect, right? But at least take the time to figure out what you should be telling yourself in the moment, at least the positive side of it. You know what I mean? Because there's a positive and negative side to every fact. It's just depending on what you focus on.
I think another thing too, I think that's a great point. I think another thing too is like encourage people just to try different things. Like, yeah, I think that like it feels like such a big change, especially like the first time you take a big leap or the second time. But once you've just like done so many crazy things and taken so many leaps, your body is just like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I'm gonna try this and I might fail, and if I fail, like whatever. Like, and
Yeah.
I failed them so many times. It doesn't really matter. And once you get over that fear of failure, um, because you failed, and the only way to get there is like through the fire. Like you fail a bunch, and then
Yeah.
you're like, all right, I'm still fine. Like I'm still me. I still have that self belief that you're talking about, and I'm still able to have that positive self talk of, you know, I'm a good person. I'm a hard worker. I'm successful, and like, I'm confident in who I am as a person.
Well, and I think that touches on something that and I actually just had this recently in a recent conversation with one of my mentors. Is It's about character. Like who are you? Who do you want to be in this world? And kind of deciding on that identity, kind of circling it back to, after playing ball, you kind of lose that identity, or you kind of walk in other people's identity thinking it's yours. It's discovering in that, like, these moments, who do you want to be? Who do you want to show up as in this world? And then you can kind of move based on that decision that you make.
And nothing's permanent, right? Like you can decide you want to try this and then be like, I don't like this. Let me try this. And I don't like this. Let me go back to what I was doing and then reassess. Like, I feel like it feels like a lot of decisions might be like permanent and life altering. And they are. I mean, to be realistic, they are to some degree. But to another degree, like everything's always changing. And like, it might feel like a huge leap, but you can always go back or pivot again or there's in life, especially in the professional world, it's such a fluid thing. It's um not that big of a deal even if it feels like it.
Yeah. I want to touch on something you said. You said that when you left, Wall Street banking. You went to Fluent, but your mindset was you wanted to learn from others first. How important do you think it is having a mentor or someone that you can look up to that is in a space that you are interested in pursuing? How important do you think that is?
It's like table stakes. It's it's 100% important. I mean, the amount that I learned from I was ended up being at Fluent for 5 years. The amount that I learned from investment banking, we were really like advising on M&A transactions and like really high level, very surface level understanding of companies. Once you get inside a company and you learn about like the actual day to day of what it takes to operate a company of, you know, I think when I was there, it was around 300 people, and like what that actually takes and like how hard it is and how hard it is to succeed and how easy it is to fail. I think it's the only way you can really prepare yourself to do anything on your own is, get a very, close view. I was lucky enough to work really closely with the founders there. And that enabled me 100% to be able to do what I do now. Without that, I think I'd be lost in the woods. And like, I think seeing the low moments that they had and like how they fought through it. Now, when I have low moments, I'm like, this is normal. Like those guys are, have been extremely successful and like, they had these same feelings and moments that I'm having. This is part of the journey.
Yeah. What's something that, as far as if you're okay with sharing a story of like a low point or a low moment that if you had, or one that you can share from, the founders that you were watching closely in building their business, and what do you think actions or mindset things kind of turn that around for you or them, depending on the story you share?
Yeah. Um, I guess I'll share one of, moving forward a bit to panel of one that I personally had after starting my own company. I was probably about 9 months in, and luckily, I'll go into this more, but luckily, like out of the gates, we did really well, which is ideal when starting something. Like we got momentum really quick and started to scale really fast. And in the back of my head, I was like, this is probably unsustainable. Like we found a bunch of little pockets of arbitrage and made a lot of money really quickly. And I was like, this isn't a sustainable business, but I'm putting cash on the balance sheet and, putting cash on the balance sheet and being profitable 9 months in is really all that matters to me right now. I'll worry about sustainability later. And there came a month where everything fell apart. And I was like, I knew it was going to happen, but I was also like, oh, maybe I'll never have to build something sustainable and I can just get rich and like this will be easy. I knew that wasn't going to happen, but I almost convinced myself after like 3 months of like absolute rocket ship that maybe it's just this easy. And of course it isn't. And everything stopped working all at once. I hit a really low point where I was like, what am I doing? Like, why didn't I plan more about the future? I started to second guess like everything because I was like, this was so easy. And now it's so hard, like within, the course of like a 2 week period. Um, so that was definitely a low point, and I just had to like build myself back up from there and be like, all right, I'm going to build a sustainable business. From the beginning, I was doing this to put cash on the balance sheet so that we had defense against the future of, when things go bad. I successfully did that. Like, we got profitability and we generated a bunch of cash super early on in a business. Like that's a W. Now refocus on what you are actually trying to do long term and keep building towards the vision of the platform on the tech side that you always wanted to build. And I think I just had to take a breather, design a bunch of stuff, and be like, all right, refocus. We're going to continue building like the long term vision. I really got caught up in some short term wins, and it's okay. Let me get back to, the long game. So I think that's one story for me that was every day is its own high and lows, but that was a particularly sharp one.
I love that though, because it focuses on something that I like to talk about is keep the main thing the main thing. So my dad used to say to me, and I keep that going. And what you did is You focused on the short wins, which was okay because who wouldn't? When
Yeah.
you're bringing in cash flow. I mean, who wouldn't? Anybody would. But
Yeah.
when you did hit that low, you said, "All right, well, let me get back to the main thing and
Yeah.
refocus on the main thing." And that's now over time because now you're playing the long game. And so over time, yeah, of course you're gonna have the ups and downs of it, but it's no longer a huge dip. It's yeah, yeah, eh, right? Because you understand you're playing it for the future. So I find that to be very, very awesome because
Yeah.
everyone
What about you? Any similar stories for you?
uh man, low points, I could say for me, my low points are I'm gonna be honest with you, it links into my personal life, where me and my wife had a lot of things going on, and I don't want to get too far because this podcast is not about that. But it brought me to a space where I mentally felt like I was failing my entire family. Right? So it got dark quick. But how did I work myself out of that? Exactly what you said. I focused on the vision. And instead of thinking about the short term things that may have been going wrong or right, I now look at, well, what's the end goal? And for me, I'm a person that thinks about identity. It's not about what I want to achieve, it's about who I want to become. And when I made that mental shift of just focusing on the type of character that I held on a day to day basis, the type of person I was to the people that were around me, my family, my friends, the the Jersey Mike's person that just made my sub sandwich earlier today, right? It's how did I treat that person? And to me, that has saved me mentally on feeling like what I'm doing is, on mission, is it, so to speak. So that would be kind of something that I would share.
I think the biggest takeaway from both of us is like have a clear and narrow vision of where you're going.
Yeah.
And that can be like your backbone. If I think this is largely about like taking leaps of faith in business. So if, anybody's taking a leap of faith in business, make sure that you have a very clear vision of where you're going, or else you're going to get lost real quick.
One hundred
And
percent.
stick to that vision.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's at the end of the day, everyone's gonna feel the doubt. You're gonna feel it. You know, you're gonna feel it. But I'm a person that thinks of 99% of the journey as fog. Anyway, you gotta have faith. Like faith is a huge component in this, in my opinion. I'm not getting spiritual, but you have to believe in yourself. Like you absolutely have to believe that what your vision is will come to term because you're the person that won't give up until it does. And that's huge. So I hope that there's a takeaway there for somebody.
I think for you, you talked about like you're in the fog all the time. That's one thing that I think I still struggle with and I'm trying to figure out. Like in the world of entrepreneurship and like this life, it's like in basketball, just to bring back basketball again, like it was like you play a game and then you win or you lose, and then you
Yeah,
move on to the next game. In entrepreneurship, it's just like you're in the fog and there's no end. Like I don't even know what the end game is. It's like I'm gonna keep building a company to help my clients and my creators and like try to build tech and like help as impact as many people as I can. But that's like there's no end to that. It's like
yeah.
you just keep going, and every day I wake up and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this again. And like if you crave gratification or instant gratification or like you need that, like you have to just get so used to that that's never gonna happen, and you're just gonna wake up every day and try to enjoy the day and make as much progress as you can, but you're never gonna be like, it's over and I won or it's over and I lost. It's kind of just like a never ending journey of life.
And that's I feel like that's the hardest part of success, right? When you're reaching when you're striving for whatever your success looks like, you there is no win at there is no win or loss. again, like you said, how many people have I impacted? You know, it almost turns into a legacy game instead of a win-loss game, you know,
Yeah,
and
and it's impossible to put numbers or like a black and white win loss to that. The goalposts change every day.
every day, every day, but if you keep the main thing, which for you is creators, your clients, how can I impact as many of them as possible so they can be successful? Then now that's if I did that today, it was a good day. If I didn't do that today, it still was a good day because I have an opportunity to do it again tomorrow. And
Exactly.
and that's the, I think a shift, a mindset shift, if you are working to be your version of successful, because success is different for everybody. It's doing the same thing over and over again and feeling as though you're making an impact, even when the moments in front of you, it don't seem like it,
Yeah.
you just have to, again, believe it, not to get all faithful, but
Yeah, no, one thing that I've noticed too, I don't know, I'd be curious to hear if you've felt the same, but I felt that wins come in like really weird step functions and not linearly at all. Like I wake up and work hard and do the same thing every single day. And then randomly after like 4 months, I'll have 2 days where like everything works. And like it's just like these massive, and I'm like,
yeah.
is like I was and then it's just like I was like, I don't know where that came from or why these 2 days were so blessed. But like it was because of the
But
consistency and the work I put in, but it's just it comes in weird ways.
well, I couldn't agree with you more. It's funny. I was just listening to somebody talk about this morning on one of the audios I was listening to, and he talks about the bamboo tree, and it's the first time I've ever heard it, where he says most people don't understand the bamboo tree actually grows down for several years, and then all of a sudden, within a 2 week period, it's as big as the like a building. It just like, and that's how I compare what you just said, right? It's your you planted the seed, and you've been watering and giving it sun for months, for years, however long it is, and then all of a sudden it sprouts out the ground, and you got the largest bamboo tree this side of the Mississippi, right?
And everybody's saying, wow, that bamboo only took 2 weeks to shoot to the moon. That's so easy.
Exactly. Exactly. And in your mind, you understand, no, I've been watering this seed by myself or with a group of people who have, but we've been watering this seed for months, a, a year, maybe even a decade, right? That's what that to me, that's like when you see people that have like $1 billion exits for a company that they built up over time. And numbers wise, yeah, they make millions of dollars, sure, but then all of a sudden there's somebody that sees them in this one moment because they've built over time that says we want you for 4 billion. And then it's like they're an overnight success. It's like,
Yeah,
no,
you always hear of like the 15-year overnight successes, right?
it's so interesting to me, but it makes it funny because and it makes life move at a decent pace for me because I see that and understand, oh, that's reality. You have to do the work and put in the time in order to see the fruit. You have to. You have
Again,
to.
with faith and the vision, because as long as you're working towards that, you never know when the bamboo is going to shoot up and you're going to be like, wow, that was sick.
Yeah,
Because most of the time, it's not going to be that way.
no, not even close, man. Now with scaling panel, to work with brands, huge achievement. So first off, kudos to you because that's really big to be able to work with the brands that you've been working with. Um, what's what are some of the challenges that you've faced while growing this company? And for our audience, what's a strategy or I guess a way of living that they can use if they're trying to do the same thing, with scaling their businesses?
Yeah, so I'll start with just a little bit quick explanation of what panel is so people understand.
Yeah.
But basically, I found there to be a really high performance piece of inventory and YouTube pre-roll ads. So YouTubers upload, hour-long videos to YouTube. It's a massive it's probably the biggest competitor for Netflix, and any form of long form entertainment. And within those hour-long videos, we'll find ways to integrate our clients. Just call it like a casual mobile app or, a betting app or something like that. During the video, they'll find some clever way to integrate. Check out this app. It's super fun. I've been playing it. I got to level 10 and see if you can beat my score. Scan the QR code, click the link in description, check it out. And that piece of that inventory has historically been very high friction and really hard to buy. And we've built a tech platform to help make that easier and track success and help brands scale up those campaigns. And then on the other side of the coin, we built out a mobile app for creators to run these campaigns and take care of a lot of the pain points like payments and briefs and tracking links and all of that. So just for context, that's what Panel is. I think in terms of setting myself up for success, I think the hardest part of it is that we're building a marketplace and there's huge like multiplier law in marketplaces where you have to get supply and demand right together in sync, which is really hard. It's like, do I have more influencers that are looking for sponsors or do I have more brands that are looking to sponsor? And at the beginning, when you have neither, it's really hard to get started. So there's like a huge cold start problem with marketplaces. And you almost just have to fake it till you make it at the beginning and be like, yeah, yeah, plenty of creators. And then the creators be like, oh yeah, plenty of brands. And kind of fake it till you make it till you actually start to build that marketplace flywheel. And once you do have the actual marketplace flywheel, works quite well. But I think managing the dynamics of that is very hard. I think zooming out even more, just like how do I set myself up for success? I think um, maybe a bit contrary to your story earlier, I think I've set myself up really well outside of work to be able to endure the stress and the pain and the lows that come with running a company. I think it's incredibly important, and it isn't anything new or revolutionary, but I think it's helpful to remind people that like I have a very healthy relationship with my wife that keeps me grounded. I sleep a ton. I try to sleep like 10 hours a night. I eat really healthy. I try to just make salads every night and eat those. And I work out every morning before I start work. Um, so I think those very basic things keep me so like, 100% for my work hours and be able to endure all the stress and the lows that comes with that there's nothing outside of work that's like sucking life out of me or sucking the ability to grind. So that for me has been something that I think is just massively important. And I think for anybody trying to start a company or do anything like outside of work, making sure your life is in a really stable and good spot will allow you to put everything into, the business, which is, soul sucking work.
No, 100%. And it's, building a routine, kind of like what you have, you know, cultivating great relationships, very important, right? So those people that are sucking your energy out, those energy vampires, if they're family, yeah, at the end of the day, sometimes you might have to not communicate with them as much if they're draining your energy, from the relationship and, cultivate good relationships. Don't be transactional. I actually just had this conversation with a colleague. Don't be transactional with it. Be relational. Actually, hey, how are you? How are you feel? Like, be open to it. You know what I mean? And sleep's a big one. I wish I got more. But
It's so true. Yeah.
I wish I got more sleep. That's my thing. And I think I got sleep apnea and snoring and all this stuff. It's a whole nother. That's a different conversation. Drew, it's a different conversation. But I think that's powerful, though. I think for our listeners, find a routine that suits you and your life. I think that's a very, very key takeaway from what Andrew just said. And
And make sure that routine includes eating well and working out, whatever that means for you. But those things are, it's just science.
It's, your diet is super important. It's the same thing with your mental diet. What you ingest in your mind, what you ingest in your body, it comes out. So eat right, do what you're supposed to do. Like I've always said this, and me and my little brother were actually talking about this, where he was asking me to do something or asking me advice or something, and I just looked at him. I was like, "Do you know what to do? You know the right things to do." I I would be telling you something that you've already thought of, but just want to hear from somebody else.
A
And that's
hundred
okay.
percent.
I'll do that for you, but you already know what to do.
Yeah. This is your
And
sign to just do those things. We're
this
not
is
we're not telling you anything you don't know.
we're not telling you anything that you do not know. You already know the things that you should be doing for you, right? Like everyone's different, but you know, you always do. So do what you know to do. I don't know. I'm a
Mic
segue.
drop.
Yeah, just quick segue off of that one there. Um, Now tell me more about panel though, because I genuinely want to know what, how are you trying to revolutionize the industry with this, with your platform? Because when I did my research, I thought it's an amazing thing because I've never thought of the space that you're in at Inventory. I've never thought of that before. So where are you trying to take panel? What's the overarching goal for you?
Yeah, I think there's two things that are kind of like broken about the industry. And it's largely caused by how the market has been run in traditional talent agencies and middlemen that have created this friction that creates them to be an important part of the equation, but doesn't make sense from like a market standpoint. What creators want is reliable income. It's such a crazy leap of faith that they take, and it's so hard to make money in. I mean, I know everybody thinks, oh, being an influencer is easy and you're really rich, and it's actually quite the contrary. It's not easy at all, and most of them don't have very much money at all. Um, so I think finding ways to get more money into creators' pockets, but not in like a one-off way, which is how it was historically done. It's like they get a big brand deal, but like that's the only money they make for 6 months. I'm trying to find it to be closer to like how salaries work, and it's not going to be the exact same, but it's like I reliably am going to make 10K a month, putting ads on my channel. And the reason that it has been so one off in part is because brands, when they go to try to buy this inventory, get hit with agencies in the middle that will like mark up the price of the integration to a place where the brand's not going to back into ROI, so they're not going to renew. So, say Dorian, your channel, you could sell an ad for 2K and actually drive enough downloads or signups or purchases or whatever to back out that 2K. But instead, your manager or agent tells the brand, "Oh no, we need 6K or we're not going to do it."
Uh,
The brand's like, I guess we'll try it because we do want to like test and like we want to put this budget to work." They spend the 6K, they lose money. You make, your 6K one time, but then never again.
yeah.
Instead of, what panel does is it basically right prices everything. So I could come to you and say, hey, I can pay you 6K one time. Well, I probably wouldn't say that, but in theory, that's what the market would say. Or I can pay you 2K for every video you do for the rest of the year. It's probably going to end up being closer to, 30K, but you're going to have to put it on 15 videos, not just one. But that's what I found that both sides actually want. And there's just been this messed up dynamics in the market that's caused that to be hard to come by. And there's a lot of math that these creative people don't necessarily want to do, but I have a very analytical and math driven brain, and I've built a platform and a technology and an algorithm that basically does the math for both sides and says this is what's fair if you guys want to both be successful.
Wow. That's that's amazing, and I'm definitely gonna be using that. We're gonna have to have a conversation offline about this because I think that's gonna be beneficial. for me. But I mean, I think that's the truth, though. I've been seeing this thing, and we saw it happen with TikTok when TikTok got banned for a sec. There are people that were just like lost their entire livelihoods for that period of time. But imagine if they had a secured situation where on their older videos that there was a brand situation and they were getting paid from it or had already been paid from it. It could have been beneficial to them in that aspect. Do you agree? Or
Yeah, it's funny too. There's other like small things that we do that you only appreciate when you're an entrepreneur, but like I pay everybody daily. Daily's a little bit more than I like people to cash out, but I'm like, when you need your money, I'll pay it to you right away. There's also like agencies in the space that pay like 90 days after work is complete. And like,
yeah,
yeah, if you're Unilever or whatever, like you don't even realize that that might matter. But to like small single people creator entrepreneurs, it's like I need to pay my rent. Like I need
sounds
like
like the
I
record
don't
business.
yeah. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. No, that's so awesome. That's cool that you're doing it for the daily too. Because I remember when I was, and it reminds me of a DoorDash, right? I don't know if you've ever been a dasher, but when I was a dasher, 'cause I've done every job under the sun. When I was a dasher, if I needed, I would dash early in the morning, or Uber, excuse me. I was Ubering. Uber early in the morning. I'll do the airport runs from like 3 in the morning to about 12 noon, and I could cash out literally that day. So if I needed to get groceries or something, or if I needed to go do something, I could get that money that day, and I think that's, as you said, it's super beneficial to people that have to pay rent, have to pay groceries. Kids at daycare need to make sure that, like, little stuff, So that's a really, I'm excited to watch this grow and continue to grow because that's it's a big
Yeah.
platform.
I mean, we found a pretty cool pocket and we built a pretty cool product, but like it's still so hard. I mean, it's just, every day actually getting to scale and like making sure all my employees are working on the right things and I'm working on the right things and my dev teams are building the right teams and that I'm not just doing what I think and I'm actually asking customers what they need when I'm building. So there's every day it's just, unlimited things that we need to do. But I think once you find a pocket of success, you just double down on it over and over and over again. It's so hard to find something that works. So I always just say like back to the well and I'll try different things and they don't work. And then it's like back to the well. And I think that once you've found a little bit of initial traction, that's the way you have to think about it.
I want to touch on something you just mentioned. You said you want to get your task focused. You want to have your employees task focused. How has your transition been from going from working with leaders to becoming now the leader of a group of people, of a group of individuals that are on mission or following your, so to speak, vision for what panel looks like? How has that transition been for you? And if you can share any stories, I'd love to hear
Yeah. I really like not answering to anybody else. I think that was something that I always struggled with is like I want to work really hard and have like the buck stop with me at the end of the day. Like if it doesn't work, I want it to be my fault. And if it does work, I want it to be like to my benefit. And there was a lot of times when I worked for other people that I felt like a lot of conviction around we should do this or that. And they're just, maybe like, yeah, whatever, it's not your company. Like we're not going to do that. And that was always deflating. So I think
you
just in
didn't have
terms of
great leaders. It sounds like you didn't
yeah.
have great leaders.
No, I
That's a
mean, I
different.
get it too. I've done it to my employee. Like as a leader, you sometimes have to say that's not what we're doing. This is what we're doing.
Okay, okay,
So I don't knock them as being a bad leader for it. I just felt like I needed to be a leader myself,
okay,
I
okay.
guess. So I think that part I really like. I definitely struggle with managing people. Like I think I'm very much like a individual contributor. I'll just do the work myself. Like I like grinding. And I think that's a weakness of mine that having a team, I've had to like figure out how to manage people and give them goals and let them take on some of the responsibility of the company's success. something that I'm still working on. It's definitely not something I'm great at. But I recognize that I'm not good at it, so I make intentional decisions to try to be better at it. Um,
I think that's the key part, right? Self-awareness. Some
yeah,
people are
but so
they won't never notice.
overall, though, I think a lot of times I'm like, this is crazy. Like, why am I doing this? I could just go make a ton of money doing a finance job again. Like, and then I'm like, why would I do that? This is actually so cool and fun. And like, I have a lottery ticket, and like my work goes to my benefit. I'm not just making some other rich person more rich. Like, so I definitely have that battle internally, but at the end of the day, I always come back to like, this is the only thing that I realistically could be doing and feel fulfillment.
I love that. I love that. What would you say your employees or the people that work with you, what would they say about you as a leader?
That I work a lot, probably is one. I pretty much am always working. And I don't have the expectation that they're always working because they don't have the same upside that I have. But I think that I'm definitely hitting people up around the clock just because my brain's on all the time. But I think they'd say too that I'm pretty focused and clear about what I'm trying to do. I think some people can be really scatterbrained with their vision, and I'm scatterbrained within my own brain about it, but I never tell people to like do this, actually do this, actually do that. Like I really only change people's responsibilities like quarterly at the max. And like I try to be very thoughtful about like this is what you're going to be focused on and these are your goals for the quarter. And maybe even longer than that. I try not to let my own scatterbrain thoughts flood into like, everybody else's day to day.
That's good stuff though, because it goes back to our original point about vision, right? Like because you have such a clear and direct vision, the actions that need to be taking place are also pretty much clear, right? Because that you know exactly what you're trying to do and where you're trying to be. So that's that's really insightful. I actually wrote that down because I think that's something our audience should take away again is set clear goals, vision, put purpose behind it, right? We've spoken about your why you're trying to do this. I think that's another piece that, for up and coming leaders or inspiring leaders is to discover what's your why? What gets you, you know, going? What gets you up out of bed in the morning, And I think you spoke to it, heavily just now.
Yeah. I think one fun part too is in business, like your impact is one thing, but you can also just measure it by like money, which is kind of cool. Like I live a very relatively frugal life and like I don't know that I care that much about being rich, but I find making money to be fun in the sense that like I'm doing a good job in the game of business. So it can all be gamified around like cash and money at the end of the day if you're a for profit business. And that black and whiteness, I think, to me can make it fun because it's like a scoreboard. Even whether or not you need a Rolex or like whatever, I don't really care about that stuff. But I can be like, my business is not as good as this business if I look at it black and white from like a financial P&L standpoint.
Yeah. And that's I guess that's the like you said scoreboard aspect of it, but that you're also a competitor as well, right? You're you're
I have to make it competitive,
you
right?
have to, and I don't ever urge anybody to if you're not a competitor or a competitive person by nature, what we're saying may sound foreign to you, right? And that's okay. But there's an aspect to this life thing, and you mentioned it, it's the game. And when you play the game, it's a little bit more lighter when you're playing the game because now it's a win. Oh, if you lose, it's like, I didn't really lose 'cause I didn't give up. I'm gonna just keep
Yeah.
going, But the moment you quit, that's a different conversation. That's a different podcast,
Yeah.
But it's the game is, it's judged off of that P&L sheet as you would say it from a business perspective. But it's yeah, I think that's really cool. I think that's
That's for competitive people, of course. Yeah. And for
we're
me, it's like,
competitive.
how can I turn this into a game with a scoreboard? Because I know that's how I'm wired.
Y Yeah, and me too, me too. I mean, it's even in these moments here, this is a game for me doing the podcast. This is a game. I want to
This is
see.
therapy for me.
well, for me too. For me, for me too. But that this is a big game for me because I want to see how good can I get? How well can I do? How big can this be? Right? And you can have those goals, but it's my own personal Dorian Albritton wants that. You know, Andrew may want something completely different, you know, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that vision or a purpose behind the vision, you'll never even know when to start. You'll forever be fearful. So it's a I love this game. I love the game of life.
And comparing yourself to others can be a dangerous game for
Yeah,
sure. And like, you have to do it in a healthy way where you can like step away and check back into your like reality of what actually matters. But I kind of think of it back to our basketball terms. It's like when I put on my competitive hat, it's like I am going to compare myself and try to be the best, but I don't make that define me who I am as a person. It's like I'm on the playing field right now.
that's
And
it.
then I can step off and just be me. And it does, I don't really like, the things in life that fulfill me are like healthy relationships and sleeping well and the same things that I talked about earlier. It's like, that's what really matters. But I can put on my helmet and be like, all right, how much money can I make today? How well are they doing? How can I be better than them? How can I go after them? Like, and then it's like, all right, let me take a break and like be normal Andrew again.
The 100%. Like when you're in the arena, you got to be in the arena. We saw the movie Gladiator. When Maximus walked in there, he picked up that dirt, rubbed it on his face. Go time, baby. It's go time. But once he
Yeah.
was out, he was chopping it up with his guys. He didn't have to do any of those types of things because he wasn't in the arena anymore, right? So for anyone that's listening, when you are in the arena, go as hard as you possibly can in the arena. Don't half-ass it. Don't do that, or you will end up where you're at. You have to go all the way. You have to. When you're in the arena, you have to go all the way in, or you will not do anything that you actually are trying to do.
And you have to be willing to feel the pain of loss and not being as good as other people and feel that pain, but don't let it be able to still step out of the arena and just be you, like a content, happy person with the pillars that truly matter in life.
Percent. And if what we're saying doesn't resonate with you, then focus on the you from yesterday and try to be better than that person today, right? Because there's always a version of you that can be better from the day before. No matter what, you could have had the greatest day of your life. I guarantee that there's a greater day on the other side if you went and tried for it. Right? So if what we're saying compared to other people seems way too daunting, just look at yourself from yesterday. Just start there. Don't try and leap into what we're talking about because we come from playing college basketball, right? Like
This is advanced, being a
we're
little bit crazy.
we're a little we're wired a little bit different, right? Some may not. So take it as you will. Take it as you will. Last question for you, Andrew. Before I let you go, what's the one thing that you would tell your younger self, starting panel, about leadership and overcoming any self-doubt that you have? What's the one thing that you would tell your younger self?
Tell myself that everything is a cycle.
Mm,
I think I got really low when things were low and really high when things were high. And the more that you run business and live life, you realize everything just goes up and then goes down and then goes up and then goes down. And when you realize that's the case, it makes you be able to just live a lot more level headed and just like stabilize your life. When things are really good, I'm like, whatever, like that's not gonna, like something bad is gonna happen. And when that bad thing happens, I'm still gonna be fine. When everything's bad, I'm like, things are bad, but they're going to get better for sure. Like I know for a fact they will. And when you realize that everything in life and especially business is a cycle, it's just it's a calming realization and you can try to just be more comfortable with the fact that everything's always changing and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad.
No, I love that. Love that. It reminds me of, I think Tom Hanks said it when he was this interview. He's like, when something's going good, just think this too shall pass. When something's going bad, just think this too shall pass. And that's the cycle of life. When something's good, this too shall pass. You know what I mean? So it's part of the game, man. But Andrew, your story, excuse me, has been amazing. It's been motivating. I do appreciate you sharing. I know our listeners are going to be ready to take on their own ventures, get through whatever they're trying to get through. I think your story is very impactful. So I appreciate you taking the time with me today, Andrew. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and thanks everybody for listening. See
Yeah.
ya.
See you.